Well, today I am very excited to invite my guest expert, Camilla Brinkworth, to the show. And Camilla comes with a wealth of experience, not only in not feeling good and then changing the way she ate to feeling really good, but she started a company that I'm going to let her tell you about. She's clear across the pond from me. I'm in the United States. And Camilla, where are you located?
Well, I'm currently living in Bali, but I'm from the UK and I've been living in Australia for the last 10 years. But currently I'm coming from Bali today.
Well, isn't that nice? That's actually a country that I definitely want to visit. So that's wonderful. So let's start with how long you've been vegan.
Are you ready to live the life you deserve? Do you want to feel vibrantly healthy and reach your optimal weight without dieting while being kind to animals and the planet? Then you're in the right place at the right time. Get ready to hear from doctors, nutritionists, experts, and everyday men and women committed to creating a powerful life in mind, body, and soul through ethical food choices. Welcome to Plant-Based Eating for Health with your host, certified plant-based nutritionist, Kathleen Gage.
I've been vegan between 7 and 8 years now. I'm not exactly sure what my vegan anniversary is, but it's been quite a while now. But it was quite a lengthy journey to get there. And I have known for about 16 years now that was the destination that I wanted to reach. So I'm delighted to be here and firmly committed for life from this point.
And from your perspective, when you say that you're vegan, because recently we had the death of that young woman who she was actually anorexic, and a lot of people are saying, see, I told you veganism isn't healthy. And I actually did a blog post on it. And I think that people confuse what being vegan means. So let's start with your definition of what it means to be a vegan.
Absolutely. So I am both vegan and I choose a whole food plant-based diet. I do that because I care deeply about animal ethics and the environment, and also my own health at the same time. So those are separate entities, and veganism is really an entire lifestyle where we are prioritizing not inflicting any cruelty or suffering towards animals as so far as we can. Unfortunately, it's not a perfect world, and there are things in our iPhones, and there we might sit on a leather seat on an aeroplane. So we can't be completely perfect, but we can absolutely try our very best, and that's what I hope to do every day.
And I love how you addressed that, because you actually addressed some of the objections and some of the finger pointing that we as vegans get from people saying, well, what about the animals in the fields that the vegetables are grown? It's like, you can't be 100%, but it is about minimizing. And so I love that you start with the ethics towards the animals, and then whole food plant-based, WFPB diet. Because veganism to me is not a diet. Veganism is a way of life. It's a philosophy, and that moves into being whole food plant-based. And I'm actually whole food plant-based also. So I'm curious, what was your catalyst from going through thinking about being a vegan to where one day you just said, okay, that's it, I'm done?
Well, I was actually listening to your episode with, I believe it was Coach Tenny, and I actually have a very similar story to her in that I adopted a dog when I was 24 years old, and really that connection with that dog changed everything for me. And I really understood for the first time that animals were these beautiful, loving, sentient beings with all manner of feelings, and that the dog that I was eating was no different from the dog that I was loving was no different to the animals that I was eating. And so I switched to vegetarianism at that point. I had no idea about the cruelty and death that is involved in the dairy and egg industries at this point. So it really took me learning about those to make the switch over to veganism.
Okay. Yeah. And for me, I'm coming up on 5 years. And when I first started, I just went whole food plant-based. I would not call myself a vegan because I really thought vegans were crazy. They, throw blood on people and all that. And there's those kind of vegans, but then there are vegans like us who actually are just going about our business, doing what we can to raise awareness and take care of animals. But for me, it was actually at the grocery store about 6 months in that I had an epiphany walking by the meat department, and I could feel the pain and suffering.
Wow.
It was as if I was like right in a chamber where all these animals were suffering. And at that moment, I said, I am vegan. And that started a journey for me where I started looking at my personal care products. Are they cruelty-free and vegan? Unfortunately, with my car, I do have leather seats and I don't plan to get rid of my car. And I talked to somebody about that. And I said, what about, the things that we have that are leather? And they said, as far as clothing, you have to make a decision, but you can certainly give those to people who are more in need than you, and like a homeless shelter or something. So you apparently had some real bad health issues. Arthritis was one of them.
Yes, I did. I did indeed. So my health was really bad throughout my life, as far as I can remember. I have a very severe family history of mental health. And even as a child, I was on anti-anxiety medication. I had severe depression as a child, as a young adult. And I developed arthritis, which also turned out to be hereditary at 19 years old. And it was diagnosed, I think I was 22 or 23. And the doctor said, we want to put you on muscle relaxants and all sorts of other medication. And I didn't want to do that. And actually, I wasn't really searching for, whilst I'd always been attracted to health foods, I wasn't really searching for an answer with diet. I didn't even know that diet could change your health, or that it could, potentially reverse autoimmune conditions, etc. And it was really by complete coincidence. So my motivation for veganism, for vegetarianism rather, was, like I said, because of my dog and the connection with her. And I noticed that when I removed animal foods from my diet, that my pain really reduced by about 50%, which was kind of astounding. And I had no idea that a few years later, when I eventually went vegan, that my pain would completely disappear. So I remember, I went vegan for ethical reasons, but 2 weeks into being vegan, I remember waking up one day and all the pain that I had in my neck, which is where the arthritis had been shown on imaging, that just completely went. And I woke up and I wasn't in pain, and I really couldn't believe it. And as I moved towards plant-based foods and included more and more of those in my diet, my mood just changed exponentially. And I used to be such an unhappy person. And honestly, every day I am so grateful for my life. And I love my life, and I really couldn't be happier. And I mean, I'm a human being. I experience sadness, I experience fear, I experience the whole range of human emotions. But my baseline is one of joy and gratitude,
right.
And just so much appreciation for life and for finding this way of living. Specifically, I think every single day I'm grateful that I'm vegan and everything that has contributed to my life.
Well, and I love hearing that, because as you were sharing about your depression and then the arthritis, and that oftentimes we believe something is hereditary where it might be in the foods that are in the family. And because I know one doctor talks about that. He said, before you assume that you are getting this from your parents or your grandparents, notice what foods they ate and did they pass it down to you. Now, with your depression, how long did it, because I can relate to everything you've said. I have been in recovery for 40 years. I was a blackout drinker, and I thought that's how my life was going to end. I thought I wouldn't make it past my 20s, and I'm going to be 70 in not too long from now. And, as I eat the way I eat, I'm getting healthier and healthier. It's like I found the fountain of youth. But for you, when you had your depression, when did you notice some pretty substantial changes in the foods that you ate and how it correlated with your moods?
So interestingly enough, I have actually been drawn to, I came across raw veganism when I was 18 and was really drawn to that. And that's not a diet that I follow, although I do include lots of raw foods in my diet. But when I was on antidepressants perhaps 23, I think I was 23, on antidepressants, I chose to go on a raw vegan cooking course. And I noticed I ate raw vegan for a whole week. And my mood just lifted so much. And I brought into my diet, I didn't go vegan at that point, but I started drinking a liter of green juice every single day, no fruit, just, celery, cucumber, kale, spinach, lemon, ginger, etc., etc. And bringing in a lot more plant-based foods. And I came off the antidepressants, I think, within a month.
That's incredible.
I never needed any antidepressants past that point.
That's incredible. So, and because it really does speak to the fact that what you consume is going to impact your moods. I know that when I drank and I used drugs, I was very depressed and I was very suicidal, and it was like life sucked as far as I was concerned. And when you talked about waking up with gratitude and joy, that's how I wake up virtually every day. And like you said, it doesn't mean we're not going to have pain, because about 5 months ago, my mother-in-law passed away. That was a very painful experience, but I didn't need to eat sugar over it. I didn't need to drink over it. I have a solution that I love that you're out there talking about better solutions, which one of the things that you've done in your time as a vegan is you actually have started a company to do with, is it omega? 3?
Yes. So I think you might be familiar with Jeff Palmer, wonderful Jeff.
I communicate with him quite frequently.
Yeah, he's absolutely fantastic. So he actually was the first person to tell me about this entirely new omega ingredient that has distinct advantages above flax, above chia, hemp, and algae. And at first I was very skeptical because I'd spent a lot of time studying plant-based nutrition and I kind of thought I knew everything, but it turns out I didn't. And after spending a couple of hours watching his presentations, I was so sold on the omega ingredient that he has brought to market in America that I decided it was something that Australians and New Zealanders really needed themselves. It wasn't a TGA listed or approved ingredient. So we've actually spent the last couple of years bringing it through the TGA, that's the Therapeutic Goods Administration regulatory process, to be allowed to be sold as a new ingredient in Australia. And in fact, I'm pretty certain our first shipment of oil arrives in Australia today, which is incredibly exciting. So
that's very exciting. That's very, I've known Jeff for a while, and actually he's been on my podcast show, and I produce a couple of other podcast shows in the health science for the National Health Association. He's been on that one. Phenomenal guy. I mean, he just is a walking encyclopedia about plant-based eating, about health, about regeneration of our cells, all of that. So I'm excited that you're doing that with a completely new product. And I want to remind people that you're listening to the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. I'm Kathleen Gage. I'm your host, and I'm talking with Camilla Brinkworth. And Camilla, what is the name of your company, and how can people find more information about your company?
Our company is called PhytoLove, and our website address is www.phytolove.com.au. And we're also on Instagram at PhytoLoveLife.
Okay, and we'll make sure to put all that in the show notes so that people can easily access it. And now, did you, when you first became vegan and plant-based, did you find that you mentioned that your depression left pretty fast? It was within a month, I think you said. And your arthritis, that left within what, 2 weeks, did you say?
Within 2 weeks of going vegan, I woke up and I had no intention of reversing my arthritis. I was very, very used to that pain, and I assumed it was going to be something I would carry with me for the rest of my life. But yeah, within 2 weeks, I had no pain in my neck. And I have to say, prior to going vegetarian, my arthritis was so bad that I frequently couldn't hold a pen or, do the washing up. I just couldn't even pinch my fingers together.
That's incredible.
So I went vegetarian, and I noticed about a 50% alleviation in pain. And then once I went vegan, within 2 weeks of that, I woke up and that pain in my neck had just gone.
That's incredible. And you're not that old. I mean, I
no.
Yes. How old are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 35.
Okay. Yeah. I figured you were in your early 30s. And it's amazing how people are being afflicted with diseases now that used to be primarily for adults. And I mean, we've got childhood obesity, childhood arthritis, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and all of that is connected to how we eat. So with what you do, what do you feel is your greatest mission in getting the message out about a whole food, plant-based vegan diet?
Would you be able to reframe that question? Sorry, I'm not quite sure what the question is asking.
Yeah, what
is my greatest mission?
Absolutely. What do you see now that you've got your company and things are moving forward? What do you see as your calling within the vegan space?
Okay, perfect. Great. Love that question. So my mission now really is to raise awareness of ahi flour as, in my mind, a vastly superior option to fish oil, and encourage more and more people to make that switch over from fish oil to ahi flour oil.
And what is ahi flour oil?
So ahi flour is the new omega ingredient that we've just brought to market.
Okay.
It's grown in the UK, and it's grown using regenerative agriculture principles. So whilst fish oil is incredibly detrimental to our planet, this oil is actually highly sustainable and helps regenerate the soil. And on top of that, it offers so many different omega metabolites that fish oil and algae don't.
Okay. And I'm so glad you brought up about how detrimental fish oil is, not only to people's bodies, but to the fish themselves, to the ocean, to the oxygen in the air. And a lot of people have not connected the dots, or if you present them with some information, they say, oh, I don't want to hear it. And it's kind of like ignorance is bliss in their world. And it's not, because we're getting sicker and sicker by the day. And it's important for people to know. Have you seen the movie Eating Ourselves into Extinction?
I have. I love it. And I've actually featured a quote from that film on our Instagram grid. I
was fascinated by the movie. I actually probably have consumed every documentary out there, every book out there. Yes. And I just recently found out about this one, and it was like, oh my gosh, I've got to watch it. And I was shocked at what is going on with our oceans. And is that part of your mission with the products that you're bringing to market? Is it to educate people about the sea life, the water life, and the oxygen in the air?
It really is. Yes, we are really focusing on the subject of marine preservation. And at the moment, as you'll know, there are scientists who are predicting by 2048, we're going to have virtually fishless oceans. And as Dr. Sylvia Earle likes to say, what we're doing to the oceans, we're doing to ourselves. We really are a mind-blowing species. I mean, there are no other species who actively destroy their own habitat for short-term profits, unfortunately. So yes, our company is very much dedicated to raising awareness on these issues. And I've recently started my own podcast called the Fight to Love podcast and Fight to Love channel on YouTube. And we'll be talking about all aspects of plant-based nutrition and sustainability, and really raising awareness of why people need to be making switches towards plant-based solutions. And what we're presenting with ahi flour oil is just one solution, but it's a very, very important one, because commercial fishing really is one of the most destructive industries that we have.
It's absolutely incredible when you really pull back the cover and you see what's happening, and the dolphins and the whales and how they're being impacted, and the turtles and the seals, and it's so sad. But let's look at 3 things that people could do to start making changes in their diet to move closer to a whole food plant-based diet. Because some people that listen to this show, they're not 100% convinced that it's going to change their life as dramatically as they hear story after story after story of people I have on the show. And they're like, oh, it'll never happen to me. And then they try it. It's like, oh, it is happening. So what are 3 things, Camilla, that you could actually encourage people to do to have a healthier, whole food, plant-based diet void of all animal and dairy?
Okay, so I would say the first thing to do is maybe looking at your protein sources on your plate, and wherever you are currently featuring meat, I would suggest adding an organic, non-GMO tofu or tempeh, or a very generous serving of beans in place of that. Then the second thing perhaps would be to focus upon adding in foods rather than thinking about taking them away, and challenging yourself. How many different plant foods can I fit on my plate? How many different types of plant foods can I eat over the course of the week? I think there was a study that many people have mentioned, came out perhaps a few years ago, which showed that when we consume over 30 different types of plant foods, that's the highest predictor of a healthy and diverse gut microbiome. So that's definitely something to go for. And then I guess just with dairy, making a swap out for soy milk, if at all possible. I would recommend the other types of milk as well, but unfortunately, when you look at the back of the packet and you're looking at almond milk, for instance, it usually contains, 3% almonds and tons of oil. So looking to replace dairy milk with an unsweetened and preferably high percentage of whichever type of milk you're going for would be 3 things to try.
Okay. And I know that you're a very active person. You do yoga, you probably hike, you probably swim. What are some of your favorite activities to do now that you're not afflicted with arthritis and you have energy?
Well, I actually went for a lovely hike in the Balinese rainforest yesterday, which was beautiful. And I found 3 baby durian and a cacao plant, which I've never found before. So that would definitely be up there for sure.
I hope that people that are listening to this that are not yet whole food plant-based, and they're kind of sitting on the fence of should I try it or shouldn't I really encourage them to listen to the energy coming out of your voice, of how excited you are and how joyful you are, because that happens to a lot of us. That as I mentioned, I'm going to be 70 on my next birthday, and I look at people that are my age, and I just think, oh my gosh, you've given up. And a lot of people have given up in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. So for somebody who is thinking of going whole food plant-based, you've given some ideas of how they can start. What are some physical activities that might help them also to get into the space of, well, let me at least try it?
Well, I really feel as though my experience with yoga, so I trained as a Kundalini yoga teacher, and I was doing a lot of Kundalini yoga in the lead up to me becoming vegetarian. And I think that yoga really does change us and open us up to the ability to have that empathy that can be required to embrace a fully vegan lifestyle. And I think it's beautifully aligned with veganism. So I would definitely suggest yoga. And I love walking. Walking is probably my favorite thing, and it's free, it's easy, most people can do it. And even if we're struggling with our health to begin with, we can generally, most of us can walk kind of small distances and at a slow pace, and then we can increase that as our health permits.
I love that. And, I again really encourage people to explore the recommendations that you've given, because it can make a world of difference. A lot of people, they just think it's, too good to be true and that we're making this up. And it's like, no. Try it for a month and you will be shocked at how good you can feel after a month. So
I agree.
In closing, what are your final thoughts for people? And is there anything I should have asked you that I didn't ask you?
Well, one thing I would like to raise is when you spoke about how much joy you can hear in my voice now. I would just like to bring back kind of a memory of when I was a child. As a child, my favorite time of the day was going to sleep so that I didn't have to be awake. And I can tell you now that has completely reversed. I love sleep. I really enjoy sleep, and I get great quality sleep. Thanks, I would say, to my diet and lifestyle. But I wake up with just so much joy and gratitude for each day. And if you had told, the 11-year-old, 12-year-old me that, there is no way I would have believed you. So
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
And I can relate to what you're saying. And I think a lot of vegans who are whole food plant-based can relate to it, because there's vegans who eat junk food. And for me, I actually went through a period where first I was whole food plant-based, would not call myself vegan. Then I was vegan who happened to eat whole food plant-based. That lasted for a couple of years. And then I found, and this was all around the pandemic, I found that I was calling myself vegan and I avoided the term whole food plant-based, and it gave me an out. And then I realized it was like, wait a minute, there's no out on this. It's like, because it was like, absolutely, I will not consume any animal or dairy, but I can eat junk. And what I realize is there's a lot of garbage food out there for vegans to eat. And so really what I'm hearing you encourage people to do is have a holistic approach to how they eat, what, their approach to life, and definitely get rid of the junk food and eat a very healthy, whole food, plant-based vegan diet. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yes. Couldn't have put it better myself.
All right. Well, Camilla, this has been delightful. And again, I want to remind people that I've been talking with Camilla Brinkworth. I'm Kathleen Gage, the host of Plant-Based Eating for Health show. And we will put up the web address in the show notes, and it's phytolove.com.au. That's phytolove.com.au. And do me a solid and go ahead and leave a review on this channel, if you would, wherever you're listening to this. I'd appreciate that. And Camilla, it has been delightful.
Great. It's been such a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Thank you for your commitment to an ethical life through plant-based food choices. The kind of choices that are kind to your body, the environment, and most of all, animals. Be sure to leave a review and rating of the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show.